Hey friends, so we're back working on our zoo tails image, and we're going to play around with this video at the touch type tool. The touch type tool is one of my favorites. It helps you create your regular text and modify it and push it to that next level. So we're going to kind of zoom in under zoo tails, wherever you have it placed on your screen, and I'm going to do a Command plus. Maybe not so close. I'm actually going to move it here. So we have our character panel open, and if you don't, you want to go to Window, type character, and then you're going to select your zoo tails object. Remember, it's point text, so the bounding box moves with it. And we're going to click on the touch type tool button right here. This one is in your character panel. So you're going to click it, and it says click on a character to start. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the letter Z. And a box with a dot above it is going to appear. And we want to make sure our smart guides are on. View smart guides, yes. So we're going to click and drag the upper right corner to, it's about 190% for width and height. So if I take my cursor, you notice it does the arrows on the corner of the Z, and I pull it up, and if I hold down Shift, it should constrain the scale of them about the same. And I can even go in and actually, before I do that, I want to make sure my horizontal and vertical scale are the same for zoo tails before I do anything. Then I'm going to do the touch type tool and scale it up. And now, as you see, it's running about the same. We want it to be about 190. If it's not the same, that's fine, because I can go to my vertical and horizontal scales and just kind of match them up to make them accurate. So now it's kind of changed together about the same. So with the Z still selected, we're going to position and drag the letter down so the baseline shift is negative 24 points. And the baseline shift is here, and you'll notice that that will change. So if we're going to click, and you notice the cursor became this kind of black triangle down. If you didn't get it exact, you can always just type it right there. And this is still live text. If I want to change my font, I can. I can change that Z to a Q. I can do a lot of different things because it's live text that we're modifying. So next we're going to kind of click this dot here. You know, actually I think we're good on the Z. And we're going to click this dot here and make this O, and we're going to drag this little circle right here till counterclockwise, so make it to the left till it's approximately 20 degrees. You click on it. If you're not getting it exact, this right here, character rotation, you can type it in exactly there. No problem. And we're going to click and drag this box, and we're just going to kind of move it we're just going to scale it up to 125%, just like how we did with the Z. So we're going to take this box and just scale it up to 125. Again, I can make it accurate through here on my characters panel. The next is there's a lot of space between the Z and the O. And we're going to adjust the kerning. And the kerning is the space between two letters. So we're just going to drag this O closer. This is where you're going to try to use your artistic eye and think about how is best for you going to read all this information together. If I do that, all right. The next is we're going to take the other O in Zoo and modify it. So we're going to rotate it 35 degrees clockwise, so it's going to go in a negative value. And again, I can kind of make it here, but I'm okay with it. And the next, we're going to kind of scale up to 105% for the scale. I can actually just do this here, save myself some time with that. Now the next we're going to do is going to move that O back over so it makes sense. So we want to make sure people can read the fact that it says Zoo Tails. And I'm just shifting it over a bit. Maybe I'm playing around with where it's placed. And I'm feeling pretty good. The next, we're going to go to the T in tails. And this needs to be 150%. I'm just going to make the adjustments in my character panel right there instead of clicking and dragging. We're going to take that T and kind of move it over to the second O. And we're going to actually make the vertical scale 185. So I can click and drag down, or I could just literally just type it in here. Now the next is we're going to move this A. We're going to actually move this down a little. Modify that baseline shift till it's about in the middle. And we're going to take this A for tails. We're going to make sure the baseline shift is 0, and we're just shifting it over. So it makes sense. Now I mentioned this was live text. So if I take my selection tool, I'm going to just take my normal type tool and copy everything. Now I skipped a step before, but I can always go back and change it. So if we jump over to page 225, we're going to take Zoo Tails and change the font. It's now 225. So we skipped a step on page 226. On step 3, we want to make sure that the Zoo Tails is Adobe Garamond Pro bold. And I can just find this through here. And I see since it's live text, I was able to make that adjustment. I'm going to zoom out a little with my selection tool, maybe kind of replace where I want it, maybe around the center. That's a nice kind of look to it. Since I changed my font, I may have to make some other adjustments to make sure everything is lined up where I want it. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to do a Command S to save. Now the next step is changing paragraph attributes, working with glyphs and whatnot. So changing paragraph attributes, this is sort of like your justifications, your alignment, left indent and right indent. So in your character panel, right next to it, you have your paragraph panel, and then here you have align left, center align, align right, justified where the text goes from edge to edge, justified center, left, and full justified, left indent, right indent, first left indent, space before a paragraph, space after a paragraph, and hyphenate. So if you want the text to be hyphenated. I'm not a big fan of hyphenation, and that's where you can make those adjustments. So we're going to go all the way down, and with our selection tool, click the animal zoo welcomes all. Maybe do a Command A so it selects from both paragraphs. And we are going to select type 11 point for the space after the paragraph, and which is this one. Okay, so between each paragraph, there'll be a space. Now I'm just going to change the selection down here. As you can see, nice spacing between each paragraph, so it's not just a giant mess of a body of a text. The next we're going to go click on Safari Zoo, and since it's aligned left, we're going to triple click so it highlights everything, and we're going to align it center within our paragraph panel. We're also going to shift click our Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. put it on this tail. With our selection, we can kind of shift click both at the same time and play around with our alignments there, both at the same time. We want them both to be centered, and make sure 6:30 p.m. is on the second line. Just do a Command S to save. The next we're going to work with glyphs, and these are special characters, umlauts, cent signs, the little 1/4. Not all fonts have glyphs available, but most fonts do, and it's always good to adjust. And if your font that you use doesn't have a glyph, maybe you can choose a different font's glyph and use that for that. So with our text tool, we're going to put our cursor right behind zoo. As you can see, it's flashing and it wants us to add text. So then we're going to go in our menu bar, type to glyphs. Let's open up another panel, and I can just drag this open. And here you can change the font, glyphs there too. And you can scroll around. There's a lot of special characters if you're working with different languages, a lot of numbers, maths, special characters as well. This is where you find them. So we want to add the copyright symbol because the animal zoo is a copyrighted. And we're just going to scroll down until we find the copyright. And it's right there. So we're going to click it and double click it so it inserts it right there. And that's how we add a glyph. So next we're going to kind of take our character panel over. If you don't have it, you can go to Window, type Character. And we're just going to highlight the copyright symbol. We want to make it a superscript. So you can, under here, you can make it a superscript right there, and it's going to place it up, makes it a bit smaller. You can also adjust the baseline shift if you want. So maybe if I want it to be kind of in the center as well. You can either kind of do the baseline shift or do a superscript. It's kind of just your preference. So the next we're going to adjust the kerning. Now this I think will not look as good. I'm going to zoom in a little. And kerning is adjusting the space between each individual character, and it works by wherever your flasher is right there. The kerning's here, and we're going to use this drop-down box, and it has sort of common kerning settings, and it wants it to be -25, and it pushes the two symbols to next to each other. Personally, I think that's a little too close, but that's just my opinion. Do a Command S. And the next we're going to do is resizing and reshaping type objects. So what we're going to do is we have these two threaded frames, this big body of text. We want to kind of resize them and reshape them. So with our selection tool, we're going on this big box and Art 1, make sure we're on Artboard 1. We're going to resize this selection to about here, to the middle point. And we're going to drag it down to the bottom of the text where favorite stuffed animal is the only one visiting. So we might want to pull it up to right about there. With the selection tool, you notice that it kind of pulls off, and it even takes it down over here saying there's extra text. And it's kind of the text that's threaded between. And we kind of want to break this connection, so we're just going to double click this little, the out port here. As you notice, it broke that connection. We no longer have a connection over here because we need to readjust the size. So while this is connected, you notice my cursor has kind of shown that it's loaded, and I did that because it's loaded up. So we're going to click and draw a new type object over here. And we're going to make it just a little bit lower to the bottom. And now it's kind of loaded up right here. We notice there's more type here, so we're going to load up our text one more time. And notice your cursor changes, and I just clicked once. And if I pull it over to this original text box that we worked with before, if you can't find it, you may have to go into View Outlines. You notice the link there, and if I place it there, it places the text there. Now it says it's overloaded, which is fine because we're going to make those adjustments in a moment. So we're going to go back to Artboard 1 and make sure we're selected on Artboard 1. You may have to go to the bottom or into your artboards right there. So once we're in Artboard 1, we're going to pull in the text to where it stops at supporting this program. Right about there. And maybe kind of resize it down and make sure there's plenty of space between each box because you want it to be legible. Alright, I think that's pretty good. It stops at supporting this program. I'm going to pull it down just a bit. So now we're going to go to Artboard 2. Make sure we're on Artboard 2. And we're going to position the pointer over the threaded text on Artboard 2. So we have our kind of marching, flashing right there. And we're just going to select 3 times, and it only selects Artboard 2. We're going to change the font from 15 points to 11 so it fits within this frame. And it does. But notice since it's white text, it fits over here. So we're going to change this type quite a bit. And you know what? We're going to change this leading on Artboard 2 to 15 instead of 17. So we're going to pull our direct selection tool and we're going to kind of resize it over here. So we're going to take our direct selection tool. We've used this before with the pen tool. We're going to take our anchor point and kind of pull it in. Resize it so it fits within this shape. You want to make sure all the text fits, but it kind of fits nicely there. And we're going to zoom out. And now we're looking pretty good. If we look at the end file, we're getting close to done. So we'll do a file save, and that will be the end of this video. We'll see you for the next video.